Alright, so back with another vlog, and I'm gonna try to do this in one take, or rather, I'm gonna try and make as little mistakes as possible because I'm gonna be demonstrating some code here. I'm not sure how to say that. I'm gonna be demonstrating a Rust concept that I learned recently through Rust code. What's up, guys? We are back with another what was I calling this series? What did I do? Yeah, that's what it's called. We are back with another episode of What Did I Do? Another vlog. And what I wanted to cover today is specifically from and into, and the concept of blanket implementations that I learned recently. I found this really interesting. So I'm going to start by showing some examples here. Okay, let's say I create a variable called str01, and in this variable, or not in this variable, to this variable, let's just say I'm assigning the value, right? To assign the value, I'll do string from, and then I'll pass in a string slice, and our string is good to go, right? Additionally, in addition to doing this, I can also do it in this way. So let's say I created another variable, but this time I explicitly gave the type annotation, and so now the compiler knows that this variable needs to be of string type. Words. What I could also do is create a string slice and do dot into. And this was interesting to me because the first time, this is actually how I started exploring this concept, because I was curious about what into does exactly. Because at first when I looked at the information about into, it didn't really make too much sense to me until I started looking into it and I learned about the from trait. So it turns out into usually has blanket implementations, or rather blanket implementations exist for into when you implement from for a certain type. Let me explain how that works. So let's say I created a struct called MyStruct01, and in that I have a field which is of type i32. Okay, now I'm going to implement the from trait, but of type i32. So I'm implementing from i32 for MyStruct01. And then the from trait has this required method that needs to be implemented. So I'll implement this method, and the only thing that I want this from method to return is a MyStruct object instance. I'm not sure what to call it. The function is supposed to return MyStruct01. So it's supposed to take in an i32 value and return a MyStruct01. So this can be one way of creating MyStruct01. And then in here I can say a as value, and our from function is ready. So further from that point, what I could do is, let's say I create this variable, I can say MyStruct01 from, and then in here I can pass in the number 15, because that can be an i32, and this is a valid way of creating a MyStruct01 object, right? Another valid way, because I created this from implementation, now there's a blanket implementation of into for i32 to MyStruct01. I'm not sure how to say that exactly. I always struggle with the vocabulary surrounding that. There is a blanket implementation for into MyStruct01 for i32. There you go. So I don't need to explicitly implement the into trait and create an into implementation and an into method implementation, that blanket implementation exists already. So another very valid way of creating the struct would be if I specify the type that I'm expecting, and then I type 15, or for the sake of giving a different number, 12 dot into. So in this case, there's some context here. The compiler knows that we are expecting MyStruct01, and so it's able to apply this into implementation. The interesting thing that I found here is that, and this was once I actually learned about from, and then I learned about into. That's when this part made sense to me, because it mentions here that it calls u from self. U here is MyStruct01, and T is I32. This implementation is basically into I32 into MyStruct01 for I32, and this returns MyStruct01. So you'll see here it mentions that it calls u from self. Self in this case is going to be an I32. It's basically doing this. It's calling MyStruct01 dot from, and then it passes the number in. So this is what the into method does, and there's a bunch of different situations where I've seen the into method being used, but I never really understood exactly what it is doing. It turns out that there has to be some context surrounding it, so that the compiler knows exactly what type you are expecting, because that's the only way that it can get the type for you, is if you let the compiler know somehow, either through explicit type annotation, or maybe there might be some other way as well. I don't remember if I've explored other ways of giving the type annotation for this specific scenario. I don't remember, but this is one of the valid ways. So there is some context there, right? You have specified that this is the type that you want, so the compiler knows that you're trying to convert so and so value into that, and so then it's going to try and call the from method on that type. Let me also show you the documentation. So I had to explore the documentation for the from trait, which it mentions over here. In the from trait, you can actually see under generic implementations, it mentions from T for U implies into U for T. So notice how the T and U get switched. So basically what it's saying, just to put some types in there instead of generic parameters, or instead of generic types, what it's saying is from I32 for MyStruct01 implies into MyStruct01 for I32. So that blanket implementation already exists. You can further see this if you go into the into trait documentation and scroll all the way down. There's a section called implementers where it mentions exactly this, that there is a into implementation for so and so, where there's a trait bound. U is supposed to implement from whatever T is. In our case, it's saying that MyStruct01 is supposed to implement from I32, and we already satisfied that trait bound. What else did I want to show? One, I guess the last thing I can do here, because I don't want to make the video too long, is show you an example in the string type. That I actually showed this at the beginning of the video. The string type has an implementation of from string slice for string, and because of that, we are able to also have an implementation of into, allowing us to convert a string slice into a string object. I guess that is it. That's all I wanted to discuss in this video. There's been a couple more things that I've been learning over time, but I want to kind of solidify my knowledge of those things before I get into it. I also kind of miss doing the handheld vlogs, if that makes sense, because right now I have my phone camera set up in or on a tripod. I kind of like doing the, holding it in my hand thing, but it depends on what I'm doing at that time. Um, so for this kind of a situation where I have to do a bunch of typing, I need to put it up on a tripod. Otherwise, holding it in my hand is fine. It depends on what I'm doing. But yeah. I guess that's gonna be it for this vlog. I hope you guys have a nice day, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.